2021 meeting, a special meeting of the Hawthorne City Council is called to order with all members present. We will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by one of our guests, Sarah Withers.
Thank you, Mayor. You're lucky I was a I'm old enough to say Boy Scout Explorer, so that's right up my alley. Thank you. Place your right hand over your heart, or we can stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Repeat after me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. And if we had an invocation on the special meeting, I would be giving that to our city attorney because he does some really beautiful ones, but we don't. That's too bad. Madam Clerk, please read the guidelines for all communications.
Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.3, the public shall directly address the legislative body concerning items that have been described in the notice of special meeting.
Okay.
We have one speaker.
Okay, please. And for the record, I think just for the record, we have all members present with the exception of Councilmember Patterson. We are waiting for him to join us.
Okay, hello. Hi, George. Okay, I'm gonna put you on speaker. Hold on. Okay, we have George on the phone. Go ahead, George.
Hi, good morning to the city council members and the members of the public. My name is Jorge Quintero. I am a representative for the Southwest. Can I speak or not?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So good morning. My name is Jorge Quintero. I'm a representative for the Southwest Regional Council Partners. I represent 56,000 members, 4,000 here in the South Bay area. We're happy and excited to hear that there are plans to redevelop the Hawthorne Mall, but we urge you to consider local hire provisions for the construction of this project. This will give the opportunity of employment to people in the community so they can work where they live and in turn spend their hard-earned money in the city they love. This will effectively be building community wealth. And to the developer, we're looking forward to seeing the presentation. And we're looking forward to working together to be able to have a skilled and trained workforce that can deliver the project on time and on budget safely while building, again, community wealth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question for Diana. As representative of the city clerk's office, how was the information for this special meeting disseminated to the public? What were the different modes of communication to the public?
It was sent by email to people who are on the list that want to be sent emails every time there's an agenda meeting. An agenda.
Okay.
And it was posted on the city website and it was posted outside at the bulletin board of City Hall.
Was this sent to the people who live around that neighborhood in particular? Were they notified about the special meeting since it directly affects them?
No, I'm not aware of it if they were.
Can you please talk to the city clerk and come up with a plan on disseminating this information, because those are the people who are immediately affected by this project, and they should be notified about this. So a plan would be appropriate just to make sure that they're here. Later on,
just for the record, Mayor, the reason why they weren't is this isn't a public hearing. You're not approving anything. Okay. They're just presenting their ideas. But if you would like that for the future, we can certainly try to get an address and some kind of system so that they're notified so that they can listen.
Points are well taken, and only because we know that in the past this has been an issue, and we want to make sure that they are privy to all this knowledge. So if you can be part of that, Mr. City Attorney, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, and now just letting you guys know that Councilmember Patterson is with us, so all members are present and right in time before we start with all the stuff. Welcome, Councilmember Patterson. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to address these bodies? If not, I'll declare oral communications closed. So ordered. We will now take agenda item 4, which involves a presentation from the Hawthorne Mall's representatives regarding redevelopment of the mall site. I'll ask the city manager to provide a brief staff report. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pleased that we've reached the first of 3 study sessions that we have agreed to have with the Charles Company, and we've got representatives of the Charles Company who own the Hawthorne Mall site with us today. And we also have the city's consultant on commercial real estate matters regarding this property, Christopher Beck, with us as well. Briefly, we're looking to have a presentation from the Charles Company about what their plans are for the Hawthorne Mall. And then the City Council will have an opportunity to ask them questions. And any public comments that are available, we can discuss those as well. And then any other comments or questions for the Hawthorne Mall representatives, our staff, or our consultant, Christopher Beck, the council will have the opportunity to have those as well. Please note this is a study session to provide the Hawthorne Mall representatives an opportunity to share their visions for the property and to provide the City Council with an opportunity to ask questions and identify issues that would need to be addressed with any proposals. The City Council will not be making any decisions today, and any comments provided are intended to be preliminary in nature. And with that, Mayor, with your permission, I think we can turn over to the Charles Company for their presentation.
Yes, we would like to see their representation. Who would that be?
Thank you. I will give the introduction to our team. Good morning, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, City Manager, City Attorney, and members of the public. My name is Sarah Magana Withers. I'm the Development Director for an M&A Gabay development firm who owns this property. We appreciate the invitation this morning to open the dialogue on the development options for the former Hawthorne Mall. As many of you know, the site has been extremely challenging to redevelop throughout the years. We have spared no expense to market the site and have explored numerous development options. We are optimistic that with your leadership and guidance, we will be successful in creating a catalyst project that the entire city of Hawthorne will be proud of. I would like to introduce our talented team of professionals, starting with Ben Anderson, our lead architect and principal of Office Untitled, Lisa Pauley, architect director, and our legal team with the firm of Loeb and Loeb, Paul Rohr and Sophia Chang. And with that, thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Ben Anderson.
Are we ready?
I think Mr. Anderson's mic is muted.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm muted. Sorry, everybody. I was just asking if everybody can see the screen.
Yes, we can see the screen, sir. But go ahead.
Excellent.
Welcome.
Okay, great. Great. Well, as Sarah said, my name is Ben Anderson, principal and co-founder with Office Untitled, formerly RNA Design, which was involved in previous mall design studies for the mall owner. And what we were asked to do today was to come and we're prepared to talk about the initial proposal and use for the site, but also some potential development alternatives. Being that this is intended to be a conversation moving forward, to solicit input and ultimately create consensus about how to really maximize the transformative potential that this site presents. So we're excited that this is a first step and eager to present 4 different options based on what we're seeing in and around the Los Angeles area and within commercial and residential markets in general. So on the screen is an image of the Hawthorne Plaza site. I think we all know just how big it is, but basically the primary mall, a parking structure along the rear on Birch, and a secondary parking structure to the south, closer to the shopping center. The site in total is approximately 24 acres, or just over 1 million square feet. The site does have an existing railroad line. Sorry, I'm getting a little echo. Does have an existing railroad line that splits the site. So if we reference north site or south site, that's effectively what we're talking about. 1 million square feet is also approximately 15 football fields, just to give everybody a sense of scale. So in terms of opportunity and challenge, this site is pretty remarkable. Could I ask whoever is not speaking to please put themselves on mute, because I'm getting a significant echo. So the question that we're asking is, how do you develop over 1 million square feet of land? Before really jumping into that answer, what we wanted to do is pull back and take a look at some major development trends, as I said before, in and around the Los Angeles area. So City of Hawthorne, and 4 kind of key categories that we're looking at. Number 1 is the types of large scale mixed use residential villages that are being built or have already been built in and around the LA area, namely Playa Vista on the west side. The emergence of Silicon Beach and the sort of tech office headquartering along all the beach cities, again on the west side. The huge emergence of creative media and creative media production, whether that be film or television, with certain campuses sort of basically being built out of nothing, like Netflix up in Hollywood, which is kind of anchored by the Sunset Bronson Studios. But there are many, many other kind of new media campuses being designed and built in and around the LA area. And finally, effectively in your own backyard is the sort of R&D industrial or aerospace resurgence. Thanks to SpaceX, and the existing aerospace industries, there's sort of a new blooming or a secondary Silicon Beach that's a little bit more focused on R&D and aerospace as well. So we wanted to look at all 4 of those options and just begin to talk about, well, what does it really mean to place these types of projects on the site? What does the scale feel like? And ultimately, start the conversation about what we think is maybe an advantage or a disadvantage for each one of those uses. So for a mixed use residential village, again, our site for comparison, if you take sort of an average block of a similar scale from Playa Vista, this is the Hawthorne Mall site in red. So you're able to see a 1-to-1 same scale comparison of what a vibrant mixed use residential village would begin to feel like on the site. And that's a mixture of smaller, kind of almost walk-up townhomes that are a little bit more appropriate for the frontage along what in the Hawthorne Plaza site is Birch Avenue, and then some denser kind of larger multifamily unit buildings along major boulevards. And this particular section of Playa Vista, again, as a 1-to-1, just in terms of how many units we're talking about here, across all of these buildings with publicly available data sets is approximately 1,150 units. And that project is a mixture of 4- and 5-level buildings, which is a metric that we can come back to later. This is a slide that was previously presented as part of a presentation I believe that Sarah Withers made, and is an initial high-level pass or study that my firm did in terms of what a similar residential mixed-use village would look and feel like on this site. Again, it's very preliminary. This was what we would call kind of a capacity study to determine just the yield and the number of units that a project of this scale could present. And I won't go into too much detail on this because I just want to cover the development options first, and I'm happy to answer questions about this one as we move forward. a couple images of just what these types of mixed-use residential villages look and feel like. Again, along major commercial boulevards, you have a little bit more density with commercial activity anchoring the street, reactivating the street in the case of Hawthorne, and ultimately serving both as a a local neighborhood resource, but also an amenity to the residents themselves. Also, the sort of abundance of green space. This is all taken from Playa Vista. So whether that's public plazas that are benefit food and beverage concepts, or it's publicly available parks, this is something that we definitely want to take advantage of with a residential village scheme proposal. And then slightly lower scaled, almost walk-up units, again, that can be a little bit more appropriate to our frontage along to the neighborhood to the east along Birch Avenue. So a second look or second use to discuss is this idea of kind of the tech office campus or the tech headquarters. First one, which sort of everybody knows, Facebook is their first headquarters. They have a number of campuses in Menlo Park, and you're sort of seeing other buildings that they've now built and occupied. But their original campus is shown here. And again, to kind of give you a one-to-one scale comparison, when we overlay that on the site, you're able to see that, obviously it runs over the borders just a little bit, but from a scale comparison, the Facebook headquarters campus is a little over 1.4 million square feet. Obviously, there's a ton of parking around it that would not be serviced by a kind of an all office use within our site. But there's also effectively on the south parcel of the Hawthorne Plaza site the opportunity to continue some mixed use residential, because you can sort of fit all of that and then some. So there's this opportunity of a mixture of uses, which we can get to in a little bit. That office campus is about 2 to 3 levels. It varies. So depending on the ultimate development envelope that's permitted, the total amount of height that we can go, or how we mix it up, that number could vary greatly. But just as a one-to-one comparison to the Hawthorne Plaza site, we wanted to share this. Some images of what that looks like. This is sort of a more traditional corporate office campus where the public space is effectively privatized. We would not necessarily recommend doing a sea of parking with office buildings surrounding it. So there are plenty of other projects as we move forward in the conversation, if this type of use is of interest, that we can continue to research and follow up on. But just some ideas of how they've activated the interiors with effectively retail serving the office users. Second one is the Googleplex, so a little bit further away up in Northern California in Sunnyvale. Same thing. So there's a number of these types of corporate office campuses that have been taken over by Google. They're actually building out their new headquarters here. But this overlaid on the site, again, it's a little over 1 million square feet, and there's a significant amount of green space or potential for other uses. So again, just as a kind of a one-to-one comparison, we are keeping the potential residential. Again, this is borrowed from Playa Vista in terms of scale, just for reference. But again, kind of a more of a mixed-use approach, but dominated by kind of a corporate or kind of tech savvy or tech anchor kind of headquarters for the office campus, and then some images of, for Google, what their Googleplex originally looked like. One that's a little bit more closer to home and still in the tech office sort of sphere is the Google Spruce Goose in Playa Vista. This is the old Spruce Goose warehouse that Google has now fully renovated and moved into. And when we overlay that on the site, interestingly enough, there's plenty of site left over. So you could in fact have almost 2 Google Spruce Gooses on the site, which is a total of about 450,000 square feet of really creative office, tech savvy, anchor tenant type uses, but with an amount of site left over to effectively keep it residential. Or in the case of Birch to the east, potentially some more residential to be a bit more appropriate in terms of the how we address the community immediately to the east. And just some images of, these were actually concept images. It's since been constructed, as I mentioned, but sort of the renovation of large single floor plate kind of creative office space with plenty of fresh air and light. The next category is creative media and production. And so the image that is in the background in the first example is the Netflix campus in Hollywood, right off of 101, again, anchored by the Sunset Bronson Studios. And Netflix is now signed leases on multiple buildings, but their original kind of headquarters building was right here in the Icon office tower. They've since moved into this one as well, and will continue to expand in this area. And as we overlay that campus onto the Hawthorne Plaza site, again, similar to the Spruce Goose, we're actually getting 2 of the Netflix campuses on our north site, while still maintaining the opportunity for multifamily residential on the south. When I say 2 campuses, it's important to note that the only office use here is actually this tower here. And in the case of Netflix, that's a 14-story office building. So that is not what we're proposing for Hawthorne. But the numbers to get to 200,000 square feet of this creative media office on such a small footprint is obviously a function of just how tall the buildings are. The rest of the site for the Sunset Bronson Studios and the Netflix campus is production studios and a new purpose-built parking structure. So when we think about the overall uses of sites, parking does drive projects. It's very important to consider. And so in a lot of cases, some of the examples that we've shown haven't yet tackled how we'll solve for parking. Happy to address how we've solved for parking on the mixed-use residential village option that we put forth previously. But in this case, you're getting, potentially 400,000 square feet of office because it's 2 of them, almost 1 million square feet of total studios. So production studios are in demand. There's sort of a content explosion at the moment, and especially in Los Angeles, there's a lack of studio space. And then finally, this sort of concept of R&D and industrial, which is no stranger to everybody on the call, with SpaceX being in your backyard. So when we begin to kind of look at at least the core of the SpaceX campus, obviously they have leases throughout and in other buildings, but the main building and also sort of Tesla as well. When we overlay on the site, you also get the opportunity to kind of have 2 very large R&D kind of aerospace industrial kind of tenants within the kind of more commercial side of the site, and again, still hold some room for a variety of uses that may be a little bit more compatible with the neighborhood. Additionally, as I mentioned before, I think moving forward, would want to be very careful and very sensitive about, what is a border condition between, an R&D use and a low scale residential neighborhood. But that's exactly kind of where we wanted to land, which is that, ultimately, I don't think that we're presenting. We believe that a viable use right now that can get started right away is the mixed use residential village. It can be built in small chunks. It can be phased out, sort of block by block. Each of those blocks has commercial retail. It has its own parking, so you're not dealing with surface parking lots or offsite parking. But kind of in the spirit of mixing uses, or trying to be as open to the conversation and thoughts that you all may have about the potential uses. Just a very, very high level diagram that we've prepared, it's on the screen right now, is anything in pink. Clearly, Hawthorne Boulevard is in need of revitalization, especially along the Hawthorne Plaza site. So community and even potentially regionally serving retail that reinvigorates Hawthorne Boulevard is a priority for us, and is included in the residential village scheme that we've prepared previously. Anything in green is an opportunity to get some more much needed residential, but also vary the scale between and the programs or uses between residential and commercial in a way that we can buffer on site the types of uses. So we're proposing maybe something like townhomes along Birch that helps to sort of feather the sense of scale as we build up to the more commercial boulevards along Hawthorne. And then finally, in blue is sort of, the site is 550 feet deep, which is significant. So there is also the opportunity to have a pretty significant amount of commercial use sort of within the heart of the project, still accessible from Hawthorne, still accessible from 120th, but buffered from the community in a way that really kind of benefits all. So that was intentionally not very specific. I think the goal of today's presentation was really just to talk about opportunities. Most of those opportunities are, as I mentioned before, trends that we're seeing in the market, and I'm happy to answer any questions or go back to any other slides that are needed. Thank you. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Well, actually, let me, I will defer to you, but, Mr. City Attorney, how are we going to proceed, or what was the protocol for today? What was the intention for today's meeting? Mr. City Attorney, you're muted?
Yes, you can ask questions.
Okay,
Yes.
from the Charles Companies, and are you finished with your presentation and its completion? Or do you have other aspects that you're going to present first? Mr. Anderson or Ms. Withers?
Mayor, this concludes our presentation.
Okay. Okay, in its entirety, right? Okay, so now we're open to questions. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead. Or yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, right now I just have a couple of questions. In the Playa Vista comparison, mixed use residential village, what is your provision for parking? What exactly, how do you envision the parking scenario?
So the case of Playa Vista is a good example of what generally the higher end of the market will bear. But that is a project where each one of those blocks that were shown, I'm happy to jump back to that slide if we need to, but each one of those blocks is effectively self-parked. So that's a mixture of, in some cases, the ground floor is predominantly preserved for parking, which if you've driven down Jefferson.
Could you go back to that slide, please? I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so can you see it?
Yes, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem? Okay, great. So the parking, in the Playa Vista model is basically provided underneath the residential. And that is either a mixture of completely subgrade or in the basement, or in some cases actually above grade at street level. And it's either lined by residential units from street, so you're not looking straight into a parking garage, or there's a slight kind of story difference, which if anybody's driven down Jefferson, some of the ground level along the street here is maybe less desirable. And that is actually a function of a choice that this developer made not to put commercial uses along Jefferson Boulevard to benefit the surrounding community. And that is the opposite. That's different than what we're proposing for our residential village idea, which is that each one of these blocks, similar to Playa Vista, would have its own parking provided. Some of it would be at street level, but I'm actually going to pull a slide over here. This is a street level plan of the same residential village scheme that I presented in my earlier presentation. And anything in pink is effectively proposed to be commercial retail. That could be traditional retail, it could be kind of flex retail, or it could be food and beverage. But as you can see, the intent is to reactivate and anchor Hawthorne Boulevard for the project and serve both the surrounding community and the immediate residents within the project. Anything in lighter blue here, Mayor Pro Tem, is actually ground level townhomes. So you're getting residents at street level, protecting the public realm, being able to go out and go for a walk and enjoy things like large parks that we're proposing. And as you can see, sort of in the middle of these blocks, we are getting a fair amount of parking at street level, and then also parking it in the basement.
And how much parking is allotted for each unit?
So we have parked it per code at the moment. Again, sorry, still getting an echo. We have not, the point that we're at right now is, sorry. Just want to make sure that everybody's got themselves on mute. Thank you very much. So we're parking to code right now, Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm sorry, say that again. Oh, I see what you're saying. Uh-huh. I'm sorry, did you answer my question about how many parking units per, how much parking per unit?
We would be parking it to code. Where we stand today with the total proposed units is based on an average unit mix between, studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms that based on the market could change. So I don't have a total number of proposed parking stalls right now because the mix has not been finalized. But again, the intent is that this is still very early on, that we're interested in a conversation about concerns.
Thank you.
But the key thing to point out is all commercial parking and all resident parking is provided in each one of these blocks.
Any other? Okay, somebody. A moment. Can everybody unmute themselves that's not speaking at the time? And then when just raise your hand, you can use a little raising the hand function like I have right here. And I'll monitor it, or you can unmute yourself when you're about to ask a question, so we don't have the feedback. So would anybody else like to ask a question from my colleagues?
I have a couple questions.
Okay, Councilmember Reyes, English, go ahead, ma'am.
I'm trying to get out of this. It seems so.
I'll mute myself while you're speaking too. Okay.
Thank you. Hold on a moment. I'm sorry. My question is one that you just responded to. I'm sorry, I don't have you up on the screen, so I can't remember your name, sir. You mentioned that there would be self-parking and subgrade in basement, that each block would have parking and some at street level. So when you talk about street level, are you talking about, and then you mentioned townhomes, large open spaces, etc. Are you talking about street level parking within each block, inside each block? You're not talking street parking like on Birch and surrounding areas, are you?
No, but as you can see on the plan, we are introducing new streets within the project. The site is frankly just so big that to not have a series of internal circulation through streets that we would be adding, either connecting back to streets that were interrupted when the Hawthorne Plaza was built, or just finding kind of the right, following good urban design principles in terms of creating city blocks with activations along streets. So when we say parking on street, kind of on the curb, like parallel parking, that would really only be proposed in the project itself, not along Birch. But commercial parking for people who are driving to the project to have dinner would be provided in each one of the blocks. So there'd be commercial parking and residential parking. And if you're a resident in block A1, your parking space would be in the basement of that building. The plan I had tried to share at the street level, I can just point out where the basements are. Yeah, so this one, anything in gray is parking at street level. So this would be a mix of accessible to, either guest parking to get into the residential lobby, loading, or commercial parking for visitors along the street. And then if it's anything else below grade, would be for residents only, pretty much.
Okay.
Did that answer your question? Yes,
it did. Another question I have with regards to all the tech companies mentioned, has the Charles Company made efforts to be in discussions with any of those, or have plans to discuss anything with any of the tech proposals?
As I've mentioned in our opening, and many of you know, we've been marketing the site aggressively throughout the years, and yes, do we have something concrete right now? No. Is it something that we're still engaging in marketing, absolutely.
And can I go back one more question to Mr. Is it Anderson, Mr. Anderson?
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how you said it. I just wrote down some comments. Potential uses. Would the Charles Company be thinking of redeveloping an existing potential? Because you made mention something earlier about other uses.
I can try to answer this one, Sarah. The four options that we presented, one is the mixed-use residential village. That was based off of the study that we had done that I've just reviewed, which is the furthest we've gotten in that direction. The creative media and production facility, you know, whether that's a mix of studios or creative media offices, or a tech office campus, or this sort of concept of like R&D industrial. None of those would involve reusing the existing building. If that's answering your question.
Say for instance, if something was to be built and there was some, say, other ideas or other interests that came along, would that idea or that, say, for instance, development be at any point considered for redevelopment into something else?
It depends on what it is. You know, obviously we're very open to any new suggestions or ideas. You know, the world has changed, especially with COVID. There's a lot of new opportunities, and I think, you know, the business sector has also changed their formats on how they operate. So if it's something that would be beneficial to the city and the project, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Hello, this is Alex Montero. I want to say thank you, for coming to this meeting. We appreciated your effort. So to follow up on Miss English question, so you were trying to divide the parcel almost into like 5 different areas, and then you said you're going to create streets. So you're going to activate the Acacia, right? Again, and also create some street in between Birch and Acacia through Hawthorne Boulevard.
Yes. So we are intending to reactivate some older streets like Acacia. And again, the site is just so big that it wants to have streets inside of it. Blocks that are 2 to 3 times the size that we're showing are just really unfriendly from an urban standpoint. So we are trying to activate that. Correct.
So that means you would create again the 124, 123 is the numbers go all the way down to 120, right? So you 1, 2, 3.
Yes, and
4.
In some cases, they're aligning with existing intersections that are signalized. In other cases, like this one here and this one right here, they're sort of mid-block entrances. So these would not be seen as like major entrances for pure commercial traffic. It would really be a quieter, smaller street that mostly residents use to get in and out of the building. So, we've tried to create a sense of hierarchy in terms of slightly more commercial streets that we're adding within the project. That are more public, and in the case of these more public ones that are next to signalized intersections, they're the ones that take you to the main amenities. So this large sort of central park that we're proposing, a little bit like what's available to surrounding community members at Playa Vista. We wanted to make sure that we were aligning those streets or placing those amenities in locations that are frankly accessible.
Okay. So before I ask you the next question, I'm just going to make a statement because how Hawthorne, is a 5.9 square mile in one of the most densest city in the United States, right? We have a lot of residents in a 5.9 square mile. And when you're proposing to build almost 1,900 units, it's going to create tremendous traffic and also more dense populated city. Can you explain how you envision to build 1,900 units on the site based on our code, right? That one bedroom have to have about 850 square footage, and two bedroom or townhomes or condos have to have 1,250 square footage. Can you explain that to me, please?
Yeah, so the total number of units, you know, if you can kind of see these plans, again, you know, we are very early on, and the 1,900 units being proposed is really a function of what can the site produce in terms of how much area do we have to lay out these units and lay them out inside buildings that have parking and all the other sort of requisite things. I think the point of the conversation today and moving forward is determining ultimately what is the right number of units, and, you know, traffic engineers and other things. Paul, if you'd like to jump in, you know, I think will be part of the conversation to determine what is appropriate. This is really a capacity setting, meaning like what can the site yield? But I appreciate your concerns, and I think that's a valuable part of the conversation moving forward in terms of how do we answer that, and how do we land at the right amount of residents or units. But as shown, all the little boxes inside these buildings, those are code appropriate 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, studios, or townhouses per the Hawthorne Code, and they're parked that way as well.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm still having a few more questions.
Mr.
ahead,
Mayor, looks
yes.
like Christopher Beck has his hand up.
Mr. Beck, are you following? Is it that you want to speak, Mr. Beck, or you just accidentally hit that and haven't taken it down, Mr. Beck?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor and
Okay.
Councilmember Patterson, but I can acquiesce until the other council member has finished his questioning. No problem.
Okay, Councilmember Montero, can you just go ahead? Would you like to hear from Mr. Beck?
Sure. Go ahead, Mr. Beck.
Oh, I appreciate it, and my apologies for interrupting. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My question for Mr. Anderson would be, in this particular analysis, I realize there's 4, you know, sort of analysis that were provided, or preliminary analysis in the comparison to Playa Vista. For a site of this scale, you know, has there been more thought into potentially more green space and more inviting park sort of space? I know that in Playa Vista, for example, you know, there's significant amount of green space in parks. And even on smaller scales, such as projects like the Renaissance in Inglewood, which was built in 2006, 112 homes, there was a substantial amount of green space. Again, I wasn't sure if there was much thought put into that, and wanted to ask that question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I just want, you can hear me? I'm not on mute.
Go ahead.
Okay. It's a great question. So again, you know, I think that's where the sort of value of this scale comparison tool, if everybody could please mute. So this being a, you know, satellite image of one of the Playa Vista phases, to your point, you can see that they, you know, not only have generous sidewalks with really nice parkways, and a slightly more local, like kind of neighborhood green spaces. There's also much more open, larger public ones. So given that this is really kind of our first few steps with the conversation about green space, or how we program it, or what it ultimately wants to be, we were fairly aggressive with trying to make sure that we're at least thinking about it, or holding space for those types of really transformative kind of public moments to occur. And I'll give you 2 examples. One is knowing that there's sensitivity along Birch. We've proposed to sort of double the setback and create really what would sort of feel like front yards to the townhomes that might exist on the Hawthorne Plaza site facing Birch, right? So that's sort of a way of stepping down the density, but also on our front doorstep, at least as seen from the neighborhood, you know, creating a significant amount of green space. You know, and that could easily be turned into something like little linear pocket parks or little dog parks. And so you're seeing some of those more, you know, linear, they're still wide enough to kind of have a little picnic or for dogs to play, and you're off of the street. But the main play here was trying to get a significant amount of green space. So if this is the same scale as the Playa Vista one, you can see in this particular case, they've got kind of two larger, more public parks, which was sort of our intent here. And ultimately, if we decide that, more is needed or maybe less, and it's better to have one, I mean, that's sort of where we hope the conversation can go when the time is right. But we are definitely holding space for that, whether that's a lawn or a play area or just a really nice plaza to sit out and have, lunch or dinner.
Well, one follow-up to that, if possible, if that would be okay with the group. Thank you for that. Would be if you look at the prospective plans for the tech office campus, particularly the Facebook campus, and really, I believe it was another campus in the Bay Area. If I'm not mistaken, those all had green space as well. Is that something that would be that you could show as well? I mean, I think, I know that was very important as corporate initiatives for both those institutions to create a full campus that not only is building structure wise, but also has amenities within large parks and whatnot.
Absolutely. And so I think, because we were asked to come with alternates to the residential village that we had shared with the city previously, we just aren't as far along. But I would actually say it's, these types of progressive, forward-thinking, tech-savvy anchor tenants are really going to demand it because their employees are demanding it. And so just like the Facebook campus here, that entire interior plaza is a mix of just pure landscaping, parks, hardscape, outdoor plazas. So it's all the things that I just spoke to in the residential scheme that would apply just as much, I think, in the commercial one. And I think in the case of the commercial one, for security reasons, sometimes you do need to separate, but I think moving forward, we would want as sort of a touchstone to make sure that you're still providing, some sense of public amenity for either the neighbors or surrounding community to benefit from. But it's a great point.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Through the chair. Mr. Mayor, it's Alex again. Okay, Montero.
Yes.
Yeah, all these ideas are great. The mixed use, because that's a call for our specific plan. Create media and production. It would be great. Tech office campus. My question to you, because of COVID, right? A lot of these companies have learned how to allow their employees working from home. How do you see a need for, like, for example, for tech companies, if it's not industrial, to do work? They don't need to bring people into the office anymore. So have you thought about some other alternative of because we would love to have the tech companies in our backyard, but I'm thinking more and more people are learning how to work from home and not pay tremendous amount of money into leases. So have you think about medical facilities and some other possibilities for commercial?
Absolutely, I'll take that, Ben. To answer the council member's question, absolutely we have. We have a vast network of brokers. We work with all the top brokers throughout the country. So this is something that we are also exploring. And you're absolutely correct. I mean, this is a perfect location to be able to lure, a large type of user, any one of what we have, and also provide housing so that it really becomes a campus and it gives them a sense of community. And then it's something that people can get out of their cars and walk to their office or work from home, and they're in close proximity. So this is something that is at the forefront of our planning.
Anyone else?
Through the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
When you look at the development of the village scenario, the mixed-use residential village. What is your scenario for commercial and restaurants? How would that look?
So again, we're very early days. We haven't really started to think about, and I think to the point Sarah just made about bringing in the right mix of brokers, seeking what the city's consultants have to offer, and really just responding to where the market is. But right now, anything in pink on the slide right now is proposed as commercial, and clearly it's intended to reactivate Hawthorne and also provide some activation of things like these main public parks or the green spaces. It'd be great to have a cafe and a restaurant that spills out onto and sort of activates the park. So in some cases, the commercial actually moves into the project a little bit. It's not just residential houses everywhere. But I think any large project like this, whether it's mixed use residential or office with community serving commercial retail and food and beverage at street level, that mix is something that takes a lot of input to really land on finally, but we're very much open to thoughts on what the community needs at the moment.
And what percentage of the space is reserved for commercial?
We have, since this is planning, and depending on where the direction that the development goes into, it'll be tailored for the demand as well as the uses that we are able to bring to the site. So, when you have that many bodies, people are going to need to eat and they're going to need essential items. So that opens opportunity for to be able to bring in commercial uses that will basically thrive in that scenario.
And we were between about 100 to 150, kind of a little bit more like 125,000 square feet of total commercial proposed. So everything in pink that you're seeing here is about 125,000, which is a significant amount.
That was a previous proposal, and post-COVID, this is something that may change because of the current situation. A lot of businesses have really have gone out. 60% of all sit-down restaurants have left the market. It doesn't mean that new restaurants or other users like that won't be coming back in, but we're also seeing a shift in that. So it's very critical that we have that balance. We don't want to have more of what we have now, which is vacancy, if we don't get the mix proper. We don't have the proper mix. That's going to be absolutely critical.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, I had my hand up. This is Christopher Beck.
Yes, Christopher, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Going back to the, and we keep using the Playa Vista analogy, so I will keep going. Was there a plan, and maybe I missed it, and I apologize to the group if I did, was there a plan that was proposed or shown in today's meeting that articulates all three uses, i.e., a sprinkle of residential, some retail, and some creative office / studio space? I bring that up because that is really the true definition of sort of how Playa Vista was structured. If you guys are familiar with it, Playa Vista to the west towards Lincoln has anchored office / creative tenants such as EA Sports and Gaming, TMZ as well. And when you move to the east on Jefferson, going closer towards Culver City and anchoring Playa Vista to the east, you've got things such as the Clippers practice facility and some other medical uses, in addition to, I believe, YouTube and others. Was that something that was contemplated by the Charles Company? And if so, was that indicated in today's meeting or on one of the slides?
Obviously, this is a study session, but yes, if we had interest by any one of those users and we're able to, especially at this point, design the project, absolutely. We would, making sure that you have that harmony and that the site is tailored to really, you know, have a harmonious development with the users that are interested in coming here.
Okay, but I guess I wasn't clear on my question. My question was, are any of those slides indicative of what I just asked of today's presentation?
No.
Okay.
This is something that it was an overall view of what the uses were that we could bring to the site.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, anybody else?
To the chair,
Yes.
again, this is Alex Montero. So, basis on what Benjamin replied to me earlier about, you know, going back to adapt to our code, the planning, like the draft that you gave us about a few weeks ago, if you're willing to go back and redraft that draft basis on our code and square footage per unit, those, I would love to see those numbers, how you would create the mixed use model basis on our current code per square footage.
I'd like to comment, Ben, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Well, is that question, Mr. Councilmember Montero, are you okay with the response from her?
Oh, I didn't hear the response.
Okay, go ahead, Ms.
I haven't
Withers.
responded yet. I was gonna respond to your comment. You asked a question regarding the code, how we would achieve the square footages to what the code requires. Did I understand you correctly? Okay, I think you nodded, so I'll take that.
Mr. Wither, Sada, what I would like to see, if in fact that you guys are willing to build by City of Hawthorne code, that is, like say, one bedroom is 850 square footage and two bedroom is 1250 square footage. I would like to see if you would go back and revise the previous plan that you submitted to us about 3 weeks ago on those numbers of units to see if that is something that we can grasp on. If you're talking like the mixed use, because you have a good concept of Playa Vista, but you know we want to do it better. We want to do it less dense. So can you guys go back and try to revise these numbers based on our City of Hawthorne code?
Yes, sir. And, you know, we do have a specific plan that is a governing document on this property.
That's correct.
That we can actually, you know, amend and enhance because it's outdated now. So that's something that we can take into consideration, absolutely. And since this is a planning session, this is the perfect opportunity to take your comments and your recommendations back so that we can see what really works. I think everybody wants a successful project, and you know, input right now is absolutely critical.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That's what we want the same goal. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a questions?
This is Paul Rohrer. I just wanted to weigh in on a couple of comments by Councilmember Montero, because I think he made a couple of good points here that I don't want to just leave unnoticed, which is, you know, that with COVID, we have had a change in terms of, you know, what can be practically done, right? So obviously retail has had trouble for years and years, and COVID appears to, you know, put the final nail in the coffin for it, at least on a large scale, right? So retail, as Sarah was saying, really is about, you know, at a neighborhood scale. It's at a neighborhood level. Like what were the people that were drawing there and the people who are there, like what would they use, right? Rather than, what are people driving from Orange County to see or something. So it's less regional and more local. But one of the things that the council member brought up was the idea of, what is working right now, and medical is something that we're seeing activity in. We're also seeing it in studios, right? People are still building new studios. And as he mentioned, the industrial type of R&D space, right? That's something where you need people come in for it, right? It's not all done off site. But I think to the comments about sort of traditional office and traditional retail are well taken, right? And residential is something obviously that people are still working with. So I think those are the food groups that we need to be thinking about as ones that we could practically utilize. One of the things I think to keep an account is in terms of what you can build right now, right? Like you say, like, I want to build something quickly. Well, the thing that you can build the most quickly is often residential because of the fact that you don't need to underwrite it based on having a tenant, right? Your bank will come and give you a loan knowing that there's more people to come there. Whereas if you say, well, I want to build a studio, that's hard to do without already having a committed tenant. We worked for a client in recently buying a studio that had gone bankrupt because it didn't have a committed tenant. So I think those are a couple of things to keep in mind, and I just wanted to note it because I think it dovetails with what was brought up by several people. Thanks.
Okay, I have a question. Can you guys hear me? Do any of my other colleagues have any questions? Councilmember Patterson and anybody? Ms. Reyes? Councilmember Reyes?
No, I don't have any questions. I think
Okay.
they brought forth.
Okay, yeah, I'm absorbing it.
I do have one or two others.
Okay, go ahead. And I'll kind of close it out, I guess. I got some questions, some basic questions, nothing crazy.
Okay, so
I'll be nice.
okay, so I wanted to find out if the mixed-use residential village, because I like some of the other, I'm getting an echo. I liked some of the other scenarios as well as the mixed-use residential village, and I simply wondered if there had been any thought to combining perhaps the residential village concept with possibly the concept that you called, I think you called the one that Facebook has, I think you call the tech office campus. Is there a possibility that you could combine both of those concepts into that project? So because it is very attractive, the tech office complex has a lot of green space, and that's very attractive. Is there a possibility of combining both concepts?
Let me interject, Ben, please. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, there's always a possibility, but the demand is what's going to drive it. Like we mentioned before, we work with the best of the best and trying to lure these big, worldwide companies to come here. We would love that. That would be, a stellar development that we would definitely entertain. Getting the interest to come here, that's something that we have been working very diligently to try to achieve. So yes, we can design a development to incorporate those types of uses, absolutely. And we would love that. That would be ideal. But like I mentioned before, is getting the tenant to come to the site. That is critical.
To the chair. To the chair.
I'm so sorry. I'm muting myself and unmuting. And yes, go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. To the Charles Company, has there been any efforts, or have anyone ever have made suggestions internally or otherwise to maybe go out into the community and see what the community wants? Has there been any community outreach, in other words?
Thank you. I think throughout the years, in different scenarios, and obviously, I've worked with the company for a long time. I was not the lead on this project. But there has been outreach. I think this is something that even today, this is the start of a new chapter. And I think it's something that we welcome that. And we would take your guidance and your lead in being able to, perhaps go out and, being members, representing the community. I think that the suggestions today and rolling up our sleeves and being able to come up with solutions, it's a start. And that's something that we could go out and get feedback from the community to see what they want to do. But I think we need to start with yourselves.
To the chair, real quick, just in response.
Yeah, go ahead, Miss
Um,
Councilmember.
we just came off of an election, as you already know. And there's lots of community input that call upon the leaders of the city with regards to the mall and just educating the community about who owns the mall. We as leaders has tried, numerous times to engage community because, obviously there's big interest in the Hawthorne Mall, especially considering how long it's been vacant. But when I speak to efforts to engage the community, I'm talking about the Charles Company. And so when you talk about turning a new leaf, don't you believe that should be something that your organization should be looking at or maybe entertaining in the near future, so that then there could be real true engagement as to what the community is saying so that you could hear it for yourself?
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right, Councilmember English. This is why today we are very excited to come to you and bring you some of these ideas. And, we do take the lead from your staff and from your governing board. And so we look forward to moving in that direction and being able to engage the community while working with your team. So absolutely, we would do that. We feel that there's a huge opportunity. We're very excited with the makeup of your council. I think everybody wants to get something done, and God knows we do, because we've spent a fortune trying to keep this property and marketing, et cetera. And we want to make sure that we move forward.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'm ready now.
Through the chair, let me ask you just a quick observation. Okay, and then you'll let you go.
Okay. It must be important.
Yeah, to Mr. Sada, you guys, show us all these examples, outside in our area. I was wondering, what is your take or your perspective on the success of the Inglewood city? Since we just like half a mile south of them. So how do you guys see the success of Inglewood with you have like you said, 15 football field area, and basically you guys led by all other opportunities that went to Inglewood. So can you give me like a rationalization about that?
Absolutely, actually. In Inglewood and Carson, as you very well know, they were aggressively, and they had the land. The sites are a little bit larger than what we have. So they were, they went into a bidding war to see who would get it. Ultimately, Inglewood came out ahead, right, to get the football team. The distance between Hawthorne and Inglewood is very nominal. It's very, very close. So it's something that we can capitalize on that success. And I think this is the time that this area, this region is really going to wake up. And maybe I'm overly hopeful with the stadium, but I think that there is a huge interest. If you look at the property surrounding Inglewood, they've gone up tremendously in value because there is that demand. I think Hawthorne is a natural. You have the freeway locations and it's right in the center. So there is a lot of opportunity, absolutely.
Through the chair.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm following up on that question though, but if you're looking at Inglewood as a, in comparing how Hawthorne might benefit from what's going on in Inglewood, why are you not looking at opportunities such as more hotels, for example, where people who are going to Inglewood could possibly stay, or perhaps in an entertainment portion of the complex where people going to Inglewood could also come to Hawthorne and benefit?
And we have Mayor Pro Tem, you know, when we go out and through our leasing teams, we have relationships with all the hotel brands, from mid-range to high-end. You know, we develop all over the state. So we're, you know, that's something that we definitely have pitched in the past and now. The hotel business right now is, you know, there's very few that are doing any type of deals because of the pandemic. That once this, you know, COVID is a little bit more under control, I think we're going to see some different changes. We are open to all those tenants. That's not something that we would close off. Nothing, you know, we could do tech office or R&D or creative or even mixed use with a residential component. Even those types of uses are going to bring a demand for space. But as of right now, you know, I mean, that's something that we can take under, it is under consideration. I can't say that it's something new, but we do have it on our list, absolutely.
And have you also looked at the possibility of an entertainment complex as a component?
Yes. You know, the challenge is there, as you know, even theaters are holding on by a string, you know, live performances and, you know, it's challenging. We have to see how this shakes out post-COVID. And this is not something that's going to happen overnight, but it's something that we are poised to be able to seize the opportunity when it presents itself. And absolutely, we would do that.
Thank you.
All right, folks. You know, Mr. Beck, I'm gonna,
Okay.
do you have an immediate response to anything? Let's make it short because I need to ask my questions. Go ahead.
Yes,
Mr.
sir,
Beck.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Real quick, I know someone had briefly touched on medical. Was there any valuation or any consideration for any sort of medical? I know that's one sector that's continuing to grow, as I think an individual pointed out. And number two, currently on this particular asset, do you have brokers engaged working on actively trying to attract users to the site? And if so, who would that be? And I'm done with my questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead. Ms. Withers.
Yes, and we do have various brokers that are working officially and unofficially on our project, because we do have relationships throughout the brokerage community, as you know. I think you probably know, being a broker yourself, that you know, if someone comes to us with an opportunity, absolutely, we would look at it. And we do. And that's something that I can follow up and, you know, basically, we can let you know who the brokers that have worked on our project and are working on it now.
Thank you.
Okay, now my questions. So, is there plans for a food court?
Yes, food is very critical to any project, especially something of this magnitude. Is it a food court, a restaurant, what that looks like? That's something that depending on what direction we take and who the tenants are, but absolutely there will be food.
Okay. Is there a demand for office space that out there in the in our area that would enable you to be able to get financing to be able to accomplish that?
You know, office is very challenging, as you know, we've all seen with COVID. You know, once again, when you look at the tech, R&D, creative media, you know, are many of them going to continue to keep their employees at home working? Maybe a lot of them, but they're also going to require space. So that's what we're counting on. So to answer your question, is there a demand for office? Yes. What that office, is it the traditional looking office as before? It might be different because the world is different today in the market.
Okay. All right, good. Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting, look, we're here talking to you. Some of us have been here for a while. Councilmember Reyes English has been here with me since 2009 as council members, and we've worked with each other. We've met back then. Council members have joined us, or they've been observing from the other side of the podium. And you know, I'm here sitting on 5 or 6 plans from the Charles Company over this 12 years at least, or previous, a couple from before during Mayor Guidi and previous mayors. So you know, we hope that this is a productive. That there's going to be a productive, conclusive conclusion coming up soon. But I mean, it hasn't been because the city hasn't given you feedback that we haven't moved forward. So we would hope that, you know, we would move into like an actual productive, you know, conclusion. And as you know, the city council is very critical of anything that goes in there because we are taking into consideration the community's feedback. And we even went to the extent where we were happy with one of the proposals that you guys did have. And we even signed it, took pictures, opportunities with the owner. And so we are taking this very serious on our end. But we just need you guys to really just be serious with us on this. So that's all. That's the only thing I'm asking. And we're open. And that's why we're having these sessions. So it's good. And community feedback is important.
You are correct, Mayor. And, you know, we're very excited. Like I mentioned before, this is a new day. We see that your council is extremely progressive. Unfortunately, the economic conditions of our market have, you know, they change. And so it becomes a challenge. But I think with all large projects, this is a partnership. It's a partnership in working with the elected officials as well as the community. And that's something that we're absolutely committed to doing. And we either develop the site, or if the proper tenant comes in because everybody wants to own, we would be open to that, to even a sale. So nothing is off the table because we want to make sure that we do it in our lifetime. I want to get this done before I retire. So it'd be really nice. So we're very committed.
Awesome, but you know, it just can't be anything either. So it's not like it's going to be anything. And you've had experience that we've been very communicative before. And okay, so it's been a very dynamic situation with the mall. So let's, the next question that I have, what are the total units that you're proposing with your current plan?
You know, like Ben mentioned, we did a study. That's something that listening to what everybody has, the comments that have been made today, we would like to continue this maybe with your staff. You have a consultant. Be able to continue to roll up our sleeves and, you know, come up with some type of plan that we can come back to you. And also get feedback regarding the other tenants. As you know, now that we have the vaccine opportunities and COVID is, you know, even though it's not under control, we see the light at the end of the tunnel. that's something that the real estate market is also gonna change. So
Okay.
I'd like the opportunity to continue to work with your staff and even come back to you and your council so that we can come up with an appropriate plan that everybody.
Yes, but you presented a plan, so I would like for you to publicly state, for the benefit of our residents, who we want to keep informed, what is your total units that you have proposed are, as of now?
It will not exceed 1,900 units because that's what this site can support. Will it be less? Probably. But if you want an exact answer, because we have not fully designed this development, it's still too loose. I mean, to give you a commitment without having traffic studies and engaging all the proper, looking at all the safety issues and fire, et cetera, it's very difficult.
So what is what are the units per acre? What is the what are the units per acre for this? What is the density of this project? Units over the footprint, not units over the whole 24 acres. What are the units?
Like I mentioned, right now, what we have looked at in our study is 1,900 square feet, and that's, we believe, as of right now, the study that we have, that is what the site can hold.
You said 1,900 square feet or 1,900 units?
That is what the study that was, that's the ultimate that Ben and his team have studied.
1,900 units. Okay, so it's a 24-acre site. 1,900 units spread out over how many acres?
Ben?
I can answer that, Sarah, if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, the site that we shared on both sites, the north and south, split by the railroad line, it's about approximately 24.25 acres. And so with the up to 1,911 units, that's about 79 units per acre.
So you're saying that you're going to spread, let's make sure for the record, you're saying that you're going to spread out those 1,900 units over those 24 acres? Or are you going to concentrate? I'm talking about exact footprint here, man. I don't want to hear anything later. You're spreading it out over 24 acres as a matter of wording that doesn't matter to us. It matters to us how dense this is going to be and what the footprint is. What is the footprint of the residential out of those 24 acres?
So I'm happy to show that slide again.
And I need you to give me a number for this. This is critical for us. The footprint of the residential.
Correct. So you're, Mr. Mayor, you're looking at the footprint that is proposed right now. This is 1,900 up to 1,911 units across all of these blocks. And the average across the entirety of the 24.25 acre site is about 79 units per acre.
Okay. I'm still not satisfied with that. I am not satisfied with that answer, but we'll just put that in there for the record. Are you guys, okay, I guess somebody else needs to.
I can really hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? All right. You do know what I'm asking about. Right here, I do see a lot of green. So that does not, that's space that should be excluded from the 24 acres. So I need you to give me an exact footprint for the residential out of those 24 acres. And I need you to give me the density based on that acreage, those 1,900 spread over that acreage. That you,
what the study currently and what the site can hold is 1,900 units.
okay, so
the way that this has been laid out, and this is as far as Ben has gotten on his study. Obviously, this is the maximum that in this configuration and what we have currently now.
Okay.
But this is something that has been refined. So please keep that in mind. I mean, this is a conceptual, comparison study. It's also, to start the dialogue and start the planning process.
So based on what you're telling me and what Mr. Anderson is saying is that by spreading out the 1,900 units over the whole of the 24 acres, it's safe to conclude that your project is primarily residential.
Well, no, this is what we're showing you now because we were asked, and we were given limited direction, except for being a workshop. So that's why we're coming back to you with the different options and the different scenarios that we have looked at. If you're asking me specifically about the residential component, the maximum that it can hold under this scenario is 1,911 units.
Okay, so I mean, Ms. Withers, the different things that concern us, the different questions we ask. So it'd be good and just to kind of hear you incorporate some of our usual concerns and questions into your presentations. And you're right. This is a workshop. That's why I'm asking. So I mean, this will come up again in the future. Are all these residential units that you propose, are those going to be apartments? Or will they be for units for ownership?
They're going to be for rent.
So apartments then. Apartments are for rent.
Not necessarily apartments, but they're for rent because we are also proposing to do townhome concepts.
But for rent?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so nothing for ownership. Okay.
Not as of now. I mean, like I mentioned before, from this point till the time we finish, if we see that there's demand for that, that's a consideration. But as of right now, it's a for rent development.
No, trust me, the city is very familiar with rental units. So that's why I'm asking some of the details. Mr. Beck, go ahead, Mr. Christopher Beck.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I had my hand up from earlier, but I'm happy to ask another question. I'm full of them, so if that's okay, I'd like to ask. Going backwards on, I believe it was Mayor Pro Tem's question, and that was an incorporation of the multitude of potential uses, a combination of residential residential creative office / studio in addition to retail. Has there been thought into that? And if not, is there a plan that could potentially be submitted? And again, Inglewood was brought up. I'll use Inglewood as an example. That was not just a football stadium. 100-acre park, 1 million square feet of retail, 500,000 square feet of office. It's a full gambit, and it's not just a football stadium. There's also the Clippers. So again, not to use that as our talking point, but it was brought up by Mayor Pro Tem, and I'd like to potentially elaborate on that thought, if that's okay. Is there a plan that encompasses all of that? And if so, can you bring that slide up? And if not, is there a way we can see something like that in the future?
You want to answer? Well, I'll take that, Ben. But yes, I stated previously that absolutely we can do that. If the tenant mix is such, absolutely we would. There's enough space here to be able to bring in the different tenants. Like Mayor Pro Tem stated, that there was a different combination. That's something. We're open to any of this, and all these uses, they are possible because this is what is thriving in the market right now. So we need to seize the moment and move forward. Absolutely.
Okay, I have
through the chair.
I got a couple more questions that follow up on mine.
I have my hand up.
Yeah, I'll just. You guys have had 2 times each of you, so that's my turn. I'll let you guys speak. Don't worry. Looking forward to hearing what you ask. But do you guys have you guys considered senior housing?
Yes, and we believe that this is a great location for that.
Are you looking to implement affordable housing?
We're not affordable housing developers, but we have provided affordable in other developments. That's not something that, that's something that we need to move forward with staff to discuss. It's gonna be market rate. Obviously, we wanna make sure that people are happy, that the rents are at a level where people wanna be there and they can afford to be there, so.
I mean, and then, that means some people would prefer something being market rate, other locations affordable rate. So, I mean, it's not like you're bound to that. It wasn't I was just generally asking on that one. Are you seeking a density bonus for this project? A density bonus where you would meet conditions in order to build higher density here?
Like Ben indicated, maybe I'll let you speak to that, Ben. Since you know the
Mr.
scenario.
Mayor, could you repeat the question? I had a little
Do you
background.
plan on
Sorry.
seeking a density bonus? Bonuses that are given to you because you're looking to meet certain requirements to allow you to build a higher density project?
So
Mr. Anderson.
we've reviewed both options and, ultimately presented those to to ownership on which they would like to move forward. But we've run options using state density bonus incentives, yes.
Okay, thank you. So would it be either Mayor Pro Tem or a council member? Would it be Mayor Pro Tem? Mayor Pro Tem first and then council member immediately after her. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on what Mr. Beck said, because he emphasized what I had said earlier. I would like to see the ability to combine your mixed-use residential village with some of the other things you brought up. And also in following on what Councilmember Montero said, look to Inglewood. When they're doing so many things in Inglewood to attract the public, not just football stadium, not just entertainment complex, but whatever we could do to complement what they're doing so that people going to Inglewood might also come to Hawthorne. Could we do something in Hawthorne that perhaps they're not doing in Inglewood that would attract the public? So I'd like to see some of these ideas combined, and perhaps I like the look of the mixed-use residential village, but I'd like to see something else there that would attract the public to come to Hawthorne. And I'm wondering if you can, I want to emphasize that I think we're looking to see what else you could do that would make this an attractive project.
Absolutely, Mayor Pro Tem, and we're committed to that, and we believe that it would be a home run. I think that updating the current specific plan that we do have on our property that could achieve those goals. Absolutely. If we have the instrument to be able to lure these other types of uses, absolutely. If they see that there's a roadmap, they're more apt, the tenants, to be able to consider the site. Like I mentioned to you, if we get interest by a large, company that all they want to do is sell, we're even open to that. But yes, absolutely. But we do need the instrument. And I think that updating our specific plan to include these other types of uses would make everybody happy, and we would achieve that goal. And thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
We're going to need your support, and this is a team effort here, so that we are all on the same page.
Councilmember Montero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I want to say thank you to the Charles Company and to Sarah to have the open mind that we would love to see all this, project be not just housing, right? Because when Mr. Benjamin Anderson talked about 79 unit per acres, our current downtown specific plan for Hawthorne Boulevard is 24 unit per acres. So you were too far. So that will not fly with us. And again, I have to echo Mayor Pro Tem Valentine, the idea of having a blend model project that has mixed use. But personally, I would have to tell you that my mixed use idea, it would be like a 60% housing and 40% commercial. So start thinking about on those areas, okay? Because 79 per unit per acre is not gonna fly with us. Because right now, like you said, we have a current downtown specific plan that calls for 24 unit per acre. And I understand that you're willing to look at that specific plan to modify and to come up with a compromise. So just starting from that, but 79 unit per acre is a no-no. Okay, so thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Montero. And yeah, so we just want to let you know that just because you heard a certain ratio here about housing to commercial, doesn't mean that there's other members of this council body that would prefer to see more commercial. Yes, and Councilmember Montero is a very special member of our council. But there's other members here who might see a different mix. But
I said personal. I say the council. I said me personal.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Are the gloves coming off already? No. So yes, just the history, Miss Withers. Mr. Gabay knows the history, and we've been over this thing 6 or 7 times, 6 times probably. So hope that this is the last time. Mr. Beck, are you related to that singer? Are you related to the guy who sings that song? What's the name of that? His name's Beck.
I think the name of the song is Loser, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, no. That has nothing to do with you, man. I'm sorry. I shouldn't even alluded to it. Okay.
No, and I believe he got all the hair in the family as well, but no, I'm not related to him. So
all right, boss. Go ahead.
Sure. 2 other quick follow-up questions for Sarah and her team if possible. Number 1, that would be, do you have any real-time examples of development projects that have been done on this scale by your team, say in the last decade or even 5 years for that matter? And number 2, I believe it was brought up earlier by someone, and that was in regards to the debt and the financing. It may have been Mr. Mayor, but I'm not sure. How do you envision that going forward, in addition to who are some of your capital partners, if I'd be inclined to ask that? Thank you.
First of all, we can provide, we have projects all over the state of California. We have a 200-acre outlet mall on the border of Mexicali and California that I worked on that project on the pre-development with dealing with binational issues and a multitude of other contamination, et cetera. We have 400,000 square foot regional center anchored by a Home Depot on a former landfill in the city of Palm Springs that has been extremely successful. So we do have a variety of very large. We also have Melrose Triangle that is under construction right now in the city of West Hollywood. It's the largest project that they have currently, which is a very dense community, as you probably all know. So we do have at a very large scale in regards to financing. Fortunately, we have not had to bring on partners. We do have financial institutions that we deal with. So I think that might answer your question.
Oh, it does. I just more specifically who some of those institutions may be, and if you're not allowed to say, I understand, but it would be helpful.
This is a public meeting. If you want to have a conversation separately, then perhaps we can have that conversation, but I don't think that that's a conversation, maybe for today.
Well, I'd love to talk to you offline about it then. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you.
folks, okay, so how about, all right, go ahead, guys. All right. Thank you so much. I guess that's reaching the conclusion of our communications today. I'd like to thank representatives from the Charles Company, Sarah Withers and Mr. Anderson, and the other individuals who have joined them, and our council member colleagues, Mr. Beck as well. So very productive meeting. I think there's a lot of, there's not a lot of surprises in, you know, the comments being made today. I don't think we're surprised by the expectations and things that were mentioned, you know, on both ends. So I think we just have to just work together and just reach a good solution. Okay.
Through the chair, since we're all here, can we pick a second date and time for our second study session? We want to give Ms. Withers and Mr. Anderson an opportunity to digest what they heard today.
Okay. Can we do that offline? Or no, we have to do it within the Brown Act?
Oh, well, we're all here. We might as well talk about a time.
Can we do it right after we close out the meeting?
You mean while we're...
I don't want to necessarily go back and forth on air.
Well, if everybody can just agree on a date and time, I think we would save a lot of emails going back and forth.
Oh, well, we can,
Mhm.
go ahead, ma'am.
I think it would be upon the Charles Company as to how much time would they need to come back with some of the recommendations
Yeah.
and discussions here.
Good point, good point.
Yes, and that's why it's addressed to Sarah and to Mr. Anderson first. If they can give us a date and time, and then we can all check our calendar.
Do you want us to give you a date and time now, or?
Yeah, is that possible? Since we're all here.
Well, Ben is gonna be doing the heavy lifting because obviously he's, the brains behind the design. So I'll leave it. Do you think that 4 weeks would be enough time, Ben? Or if you want something a little bit loose, then maybe we can regroup a little bit sooner with some of the ideas here that council members have made with the different scenarios of the different uses, et cetera.
Do you need more time to be able to tell us when the next meeting should be? Ms. Withers?
How about if we make it for a month from now? Would that be okay, Mayor?
April 19th at 11 a.m. That's a month from now.
Does that work for you, Ben? Okay, great.
Yes, it does.
And what we'll do is that we could study the different scenarios that have been discussed here today, put them together so that Ben has an opportunity to be able to lay them out, and we can move forward with that.
April 19th at 11 o'clock as of now?
Yes, that was the date that was specified.
April 19th at 11. Okay. April 9th. Does any of my council colleagues, do all my council colleagues concur?
Yes.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you all for participating once more. Great, very productive. A lot of really good questions that were posed. And a lot of good information from the Charles Company, you know, from their perspective, what they feel would go in there. So, Mr. Beck, go ahead. You have your hand up.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, that was a previous,
Oh,
putting my hand up.
you got to put your hand down, man.
I don't know how to do that. Otherwise, I'll figure it
just
out by the 19th.
You hit the same button that you hit it to put it go to.
Got it.
Up. Okay,
Thank you,
good.
Mr. Mayor.
All right, we're having a little bit of fun here. Okay, but all right, if there's nothing further, I declare this meeting closed. So ordered.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.